Ken Smyers with Controltrends. I'm here at Comm 2016. I'm with Todd Rodemaker. Whoa! Visual BackNet. Why don't you tell us a little bit about both?
Work, tech, work. If you watched the day 2 recap yesterday, you heard Therese, Ken, myself talking about this guy, Michael Jansen from Zenith. He was at the Smart Cities breakout session. We tracked him down, man. We want to talk to you. Cool stuff.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Well, cool. Right off the bat, tell our audience what you guys do.
Zenith is a software company. We're based in Chicago, and we've developed a big data platform, we say, for all the things in the built environment. Some people have called it SimCity for real cities. We've heard it called Google Earth on steroids. Effectively, it's a 3D object model of an entire city, which is hyperlinked to all kinds of data. So users can really get to anything that they want to see inside of the city by pointing and clicking their way into that information intuitively.
So you've obviously figured out how to scale things up to a really, really big platform.
We have. It's taken some years to get there, too, from where we were with version 1 to now version 3.5. The very first adopting city was Barcelona in Spain. And then we went to Amsterdam and then San Francisco. And over the course of the 2 or 3 years of working with them, they helped us to modify and to adapt the platform to suit their needs, and we're pleased about it.
So one of the things that you talked about during the presentation was how you monetized eventually, how you gave away the basic data, visualized data, and then are now monetizing that by selling apps on top of that. Could you talk to that a minute?
I could. We learned that cities are wonderful partners to have. They have tremendous amounts of data that since 2009 they have increasingly been making publicly available. And however, we found that commercializing the product to the stakeholders within the city was an easier path to monetization than with the city itself. So initially we did run a number of pilots with all these cities: Chicago, San Francisco, DC, Toronto, London, Singapore. I've mentioned these. And we did collect a lot of pilot revenue from these cities, but we learned that that really wasn't the way to work with the city. The way to work with the city was to really get to their data. And if we could take that data and turn it into a useful product for the commercial sector, we would be much better off. So that eventually meant effectively creating modules inside this platform that architects could use, engineering firms, utility companies, property management firms, real estate companies, et cetera. And that's how we monetized.
Michael, I was at your breakout session too, and I know you're originally from Chicago.
That's right.
But you actually spent 20 years overseas and in Asia.
That's right.
And you watched Shanghai go from 2 or 3 building high-rises to over 1,000. What was that experience like?
That was the experience of a lifetime, to watch these 2 great countries. For me, it was China and then India. I moved to China in 1991 and lived there for 4 years, and then moved to India in 1995. So, and lived in India for a better part of almost 20 years. So watching, literally when I went to China the first time, making a phone call was a tough deal. I rode a bicycle, and people were moving around in mouse suits. There were, as you just mentioned, 3 tall buildings in Shanghai. People used to go from where I lived, Hangzhou, to Shanghai and take big baskets of things back from Shanghai because that was the only place to buy material goods, to what it became just 10, 15 years later, which was this thriving country with wealth oozing out its pores and massive development. We never saw projects of that scale. I mean, in the States, if you build something that was 1 million feet, they were building 10 million there. So I got into cities because of that experience. Every project I, as a young architect, worked on was a major urban downtown core regeneration project. So as a 20-something-year-old, these projects were 6 to 8, 10 million square feet. So we kind of learned how cities were put together in China.
Great experience.
That's great. Our guest is Michael Jansen from Zenith. Michael, the product is just phenomenal. Describe the sales cycle, because you call on big people. Kasim Reed, mayor of Atlanta, you should be paying attention. How does the sales cycle go?
Well, with cities, now that it's kind of plug and go, it's quick.
Right.
There's more of a challenge to integrating with some of the city's data, but much of it is now publicly available. It's been curated by tools that we've created, so getting up and running on city has become a quick process. With the commercial stakeholders, we typically can get a deal done within 90 to 120 days because it's all online. It's plug and play. Users go online, they click accept to a EULA, and they can begin using the tool. The enterprise deals, which are more focused and customized to a large firm, those can take longer. They can be 6 months or more. But we can get a retail customer signed on from within 90 days of first meeting.
Very, very cool.
I had one other question. Again, I was just mesmerized by some of the things you were presenting to the group, and that was that you're now doing 3D renditions underground. Tell us about that project in Chicago.
Sure. So Chicago has a project running called the City Digital Project, which was designed to help organize and ferret out all of the kind of hidden underground physical infrastructure data in the city. So what we've done is the project involves Accenture and Microsoft and some big players that have created what we call a metadatabase of all of the data that they're pulling from the Department of Transportation, from water management, from waste management, etc. All of that is being consolidated into a database that we sit on top of, and we provide the user interface that allows users to get to that data. So now they look at our model, navigate, point and click on, say, a stormwater line, they can retrieve data from multiple departments. Today, the process of getting a single document from one agency to another can be months. This should be online. This should be something you can do in your own web browser, and that's where they want to go with this. It's very exciting.
Awesome.
So,
Right, I was moving on to that. I was thinking about that data and how now we often pull in weather data into to do analytics on a BMS system, and I could see pulling in your data too, especially water, as we get it becomes more important to monitor water down to the last drop, especially here in California. Do you see use for your data for building managers like that? Eventually seeing how the city's delivering water.
No, I do. I think we're in a process of exploring the highest and best uses of our technology for multiple sectors right now. And with cities, which is really the first sector that we approached, we learned that their biggest challenge was just getting their data into some usable format. Even the open data programs that took data and made it publicly available didn't fully succeed because that data was unusable to a large extent. So helping them to normalize that data such that it can actually be used was one of the first challenges that we had. With corporate real estate, it's a bit more focused because their activities are more focused. We get one point of control as opposed to many, and they can act a little bit faster. So I actually believe that smart cities themselves, that a lot of the technology innovations in smart cities are going to be driven by the campuses inside cities, either smart city testbeds themselves, which are sponsored by the city, or smart campuses that may be privately owned by university or corporation. This is where we have a very focused, concentrated test bed to be able to get things done that we can then scale upon success. So all the projects we're working with are cities within cities. We're working on 10 square blocks inside DC. We're working on 2 square miles in San Francisco. On success, those can then be scaled, which I think is the right way to go about things.
Incredible.
Right. We really learned a lot in that session. I think keying off that is the idea of private building owners sharing data with each other through your system was an interesting concept as well.
Well, I think that once they see it visualized, they're less afraid of it. And especially if it shows them well, they're still further less afraid because, historically, as I mentioned in the session earlier today, there might be reasons for not sharing that data. Either you're not performing well and you don't want people to know, or you are and it's a strategic advantage and you don't want people to know. So to get them thinking, hey, actually, we're all in this together and you will benefit from knowing what the other guy is doing, especially when it comes to carbon emissions and energy consumption, is actually a good thing. So effectively, this 2030 district program, which is now I think in 14 or 15 U.S. cities, is set up to do this, which is help building owners or give them access to solutions that actually work, and then make decisions collectively, which ones do we invest in, which ones do we not.
Awesome.
Well, I'll tell you what, one of the things we came away from the session today, a lot of hope. I mean, guys like you and the two gentlemen from the city planning, you guys are really on top of it. So kudos for the rest of the world that, like me, hears a lot of gloom and doom and we're using too much energy and all. Guys like Michael and his team and the rest of the people we saw there are on top of it. So, man, thanks for being a citizen.
Hey, pleasure. Listen, I mean, the fact is that I'm an architect by training, right, and a technologist by vocation. So I feel for the city, I feel for the built environment, and never give up. I mean, I look at every big problem as a big opportunity. I'm an entrepreneur naturally, so I think that the opportunity to transform cities is massive. and the ability now, because of technology and financial support through the venture capital community, is actually possible to create interesting solutions that can achieve goals.
Really is. Our guest, Michael Jansen from City Zenith.
City Zenith.
And what website people can get more information about?
Yeah, www.cityzenith.com.
Really cool, man. Thanks for taking some time to talk with us.
That was my pleasure. Thank you.
Awesome. Wow. That's great.
Yeah, thanks very much.